The Federation of Unions of South Africa's General Secretary, Dr. Dennis George, was part of this all-important summit, and he joins me now in studio. Very good evening to you, Dr. George. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening.
Now, is this a kind of summit plan that Labour was expecting?
Yeah, look, we started to work with this summit from after the State of the Nation address in February month. And what was very critical when the President made the announcement, he actually called for two summits. The one was the Job Summit and the other one was the Financial Investment Summit, because the two actually goes hand in hand. You cannot grow the economy without investment. And that's the reason why he said that target of $100 billion US, to be pumped into the economy. But government have also put forward a stimulus package.
Yeah.
And today we started to roll out some of the packages that we want to make sure that companies buy into the process of creating jobs for especially young people. And for us, this is a very exciting opportunity because we're coming from a time of very difficult in our country.
And it comes as the economy continues to crumble, to shed jobs. I mean, we are literally at a technical recession now. Can this trend be reversed by the summit outcomes? Yeah,
no, I don't want to use terminologies like crumble, and I think the economy is contracting. And that is because of what happened before President Ramaphosa took the stage as president. But what is very critical for us is that he has demonstrated real leadership that was needed. And now we're sitting in a situation where all the social partners, business, labor, civil society, churches, all have come together at the summit and said, look, we can turn the situation around. South Africa is a nation of hope. South Africa is also a nation that can believe that we can work together, and that is very critical for us. And we are very hopeful with the program that we have announced and the monitoring and implementation process that we set in place, that we will get this economy to move forward.
Yeah, and talk to us about some of the areas that we need to focus on, that the economy needs to focus on in order to create more jobs and to save those jobs.
Yeah, what we focused on first of all was to protect jobs. In other words, we said to companies, look, the Labour Relations Act make provision for companies to retrench workers, but retrenchment must be the last resource, a resort that you will take when you want to retrench workers. And therefore, you have to look at measures that's going to minimize and it's going to avoid retrenchment. And many companies have bought into the concept. But what we have also put in special measures, like for instance, the training layoff scheme, where we say if companies are in distress, they must shout and they must put up their hands and say, look, we need help. And that is the measures that we've put in place. Then secondly, we've also looked at the situation where we deal with issues such as the training layoff scheme, where we can help your workers to be reskilled and retrained. And those things are very critical for any economy to help and to provide support. And we are very confident that that will happen, and that will also take us forward.
Such summits come with so many rhetoric. I mean, we talk of time frames, we talk of targets. Do you come out of this summit believing that these will be met?
Yes, look, you must remember South Africa had many summits. I can mention a few for them. Before the summit, we had the National Development Plan that was rolled out. Then we had the new growth part, and before that we had ASGISA, and we also had the RDP. So all those plans were there. But what is different from this plan? This plan has an implementation strategy and timeframes where the President said that he wants to chair those meetings. Yes. And he wants to make sure that everybody accounts for their commitments. And that is very important when you want to implement a plan. And for South Africa, this is critical because employment gives people hope. Yeah. When a person is unemployed, the President mentioned in his statement to say that people walk around like zombies. When a person don't have a job, you feel so unplaced, you don't feel part. But what we want to do is to give our people hope. We want to give young people opportunities. And that's the reason why businesses, trade unions, churches, and also civil society came together to give hope. And we think that President Ramaphosa is the right leader for this moment. And the leadership that he has provided so far, has helped us to look forward and to move forward.
And the 100 billion rand commitment by the private sector to support black-owned industrial enterprises, do you think is enough?
Yeah, no, I think this is not only just enough, but it's a kickstart. You must remember now that we have neglected our township economies. What we have also allowed to happen is that foreigners came into our township and took over even small business in our township because we were not organized, we were not prepared to help one another. If you look at a situation where foreigners would collaborate and buy collectively, and those are the kind of things that we want to make sure that in our townships, we must take back our townships, we must support our township economies, and that we must also grow our economies because that's also where we can create jobs.
Yeah. And, employers complain that there is overregulation of small employers and that that increases both the risk and, and the financial cost. Do you share this sentiment?
No. What we've done when President Ramaphosa was still Deputy President, we've worked together to introduce a national minimum wages. And what we have made provision in the national minimum wages was to say that we want companies to pay workers at least the wages that they can at least live with. And if a company cannot afford that wages, then they can apply for an exemption because of non-affordability. But that must be a process where they can demonstrate they can't afford. But from our side, we don't think our labor legislation is too restrictive.
Yeah. Mr. George, the responsibility to create more jobs is often left to the government. I mean, ordinary citizens through enterprise development can help spur the necessary jobs that are needed. Are South Africans equal to the task?
Yeah. Look, what we believe is that our curriculum must now start to help our citizens to become more entrepreneurial. Because entrepreneurial spirit, help people to solve problems in societies. And through that, we can create opportunities for employment creation. And also what is very critical for us is the situation that we must provide financial support to our people. Because when a person wants to start a business, it is very important that we must provide for them the necessary financial support. And that's where the banks came in, where they said that they want to pump 100 billion rand into our township economies and to also provide support for people. I mean, I can just give you an example. Most companies have to have an auditor, where they also have to have financial skills, and that is where we can need to support our people, and that's very critical.
But is the environment conducive, though, for small businesses to thrive? I mean, at the moment, we've encountered very high costs of fuel. Actually, one of the biggest fuel hikes in the history of the country, especially for those enterprises which are in the transport sector. We've got high data costs, one of the highest in the world, especially for those technology-based sectors. Is the environment, though, conducive?
Look, the environment is very difficult, and what we must accept, like, for instance, in the case of the fuel prices. The fuel prices is beyond our control because we can't control the strength of the rand because our rand is traded amongst very countries and emerging economies. That's the one side. The other side is that because of political instability globally, we have a situation that the oil price have been shooting up. So we had a double whammy where we have oil prices go up and the rand have also weakened. And that has caused the economy to get into a very difficult situation. But what we can do is we must control the things that we can control. And that is what we must do as South Africans to make a difference in that. And we think, in the next quarter, we look forward to see things are going to improve.
Yeah, Mr. George, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. That was Dennis George. He's the General Secretary of the Federation Unions of South Africa, FEDUSA.